PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star. We have a special treat for you. Bo Brock, Johnny Venerable, NFL Network, Fox Sports. Brian Baldinger joins the program now and during the season. Baldy, thank you so much. First time here on PHNX Cardinals. Welcome.
Yes, my pleasure, guys. I'm looking forward to this weekly conversation here and getting all things Arizona Cardinals talked about here and see, if we can figure out a way for this team to finish games, because they certainly have started like gangbusters 2 weeks in a row. And I'm just waiting for them right now, to maybe it starts this week against Dallas. I don't know. It's a good team, but who knows? See if they can figure out a way to finish these games.
I mean, that's what we've been hearing from the coaching staff the last couple of days. Got to learn how to finish. We got to learn how to finish. And Baldy, I mean, that's easier said than done, isn't it? I mean, I know you don't want to relinquish a 20-0 halftime lead and 28-7 like they did, but I mean, this is part of the process, isn't it?
Well, the way that you finish games is you continue to make plays. I mean, Connor's popping these 20-yard runs in the first half, and Joshua Dobbs, takes a scramble up the middle, and he's in the end zone. And, they're clicking, and defensively they're getting off the field. And, and Daniel Jones and the run, they're not happening. And then that first play of the third quarter, the Giants they're like, okay, we're going to max this up. We're going to strike. We're going to get one on the board. We got to score one before we score five, and it kind of started to turn on. But that's the key, is to stay aggressive and then to continue to really not just produce, but execute at a very high level where those runs, you could continue to do that. And that's what they weren't able to do. Those 20-yard runs became 1-yard runs. And then the penalties and those things, started to happen. They started backing up, and they couldn't regain the momentum they had in that first half.
I think the frustration, Baldy, internally, Cardinal fans, we got 83 in the chat, loving the Baldy breakdown, of course, is the Cardinals came into this season favored in no games. The expectations could not be lower. Yet, when you watch the tape each of these first 2 weeks, certainly doesn't look like a team planning on phoning it in 2023.
I heard all of it. I heard, they're just, they are going to just tank. Like, I've heard all of it, right? So I said, okay, well, let's just see what tank looks like. And I put on the Washington game last week, probably like Monday night or maybe Tuesday morning. I put it on, and I'm like, ain't nobody tanking on this team. Nobody. Josh not tanking. Like, Zayvon Collins ain't tanking. Like, I go through the whole list of players. Jalen Thompson's not tanking. Like, I didn't see anybody. In fact, I saw a Jonathan. In fact, I made a video that I put up. I actually tagged the Philadelphia Eagles because they never saw this from Jonathan Gannon. Maybe he just had so much talent, he didn't feel like he had to. And maybe because he doesn't have Eagle talent right now, as they start to build this thing, maybe this is what he felt like he needed to do. But Eagle fans were like, well, now, we lose the Super Bowl. Now he does this, like they were clamoring for this. But I saw an aggressive team. I saw really good sound, good hard-hitting blitzes. I saw good hitting, tackling. I saw a good-looking football team week one. And then, really for the first 30 minutes against the Giants, I can't remember a Giant team being that dominated like that. I know the week before against Dallas, but they look every bit as bad against Arizona against Dallas.
And then you break down the comeback in one of your Baldy breakdowns. You can find that clip on YouTube. It's really fantastic stuff, in-depth things. And it's more geared towards Giants fans for the most part. But if you're watching from a Cardinals fan perspective, you can kind of see where things fell apart. When we look at this defense that gives up 5 scores on 5 drives in the second half, including 4 touchdowns, and it probably would have been a 5th if they didn't just try to run the clock out and they kicked the field goal. But when you look at it, was it more a schematic issue? Was it execution issue? In your opinion, what do you think was the biggest issue that led to them relinquishing that lead?
Well, they got big plays. They got big chunk plays. 70 yards to Jalen Hyatt and 50 yards, down the field. They hit Slayton. They hit Hyatt. They hit Waller. And they really, they've got a first-time right guard playing. They got a backup left tackle playing. They're trying to help these kids out. They started going to max protection, play action. Daniel Jones stepped into his throws. Like, they played like they're capable of playing. They've got good firepower at the receiver position, and they started hitting on those routes down the field, and they flipped field position very quickly. And then they kind of got the running game going a little bit. Not great, but they got it going. Daniel Jones ran for those third down runs, 3rd and 13. He's running for 15. And so they didn't account for him in the run game the way I think they should have.
11. That was a backbreaker.
4th and 11. They get 12 yards. Like those, that should be a turnover. Like, Daniel Jones shouldn't go. They've got decent speed on defense. Like, you got to account for him. They used to, outside of Justin Fields last year, he ran for more yards than any quarterback in the NFL. Like, he's a good runner. And a lot of those weren't, like, the touchdown was a design run. It was a read option. They didn't scheme that up right. So he walks in the end zone 14 yards. But a lot of those scrambles, 3rd down, 4th down, that's just him using that ability. And they didn't really account for him. And that, to me, was a big error.
So Josh Dobbs comes in, Baldy. He has about a week and a half of practice and promptly looks rusty against the Commanders, then comes out this past weekend and looks pretty good, especially in the first half against the Giants. Now, drinking the Kool-Aid here, 72 hours later, can he potentially keep them in games and God forbid, win them a game while Kyler Murray is out? Or is this a scenario in which it's going to be a roller coaster ride with a guy who's had his cup of coffee in the NFL, minimal experience starting? Like, our team's going to be able to figure him out, for lack of a better term?
Well, I know Josh on a different level. Like, I did a business deal with him when he was in Pittsburgh and found out he's this aeronautical engineer. He's like this Mensa. Like, he's smarter than all of our brains put together. Now, that doesn't ensure anything. You might be able to figure out mathematical formulas, but it doesn't complete passes. But I do think he's a very quick study. I think he's got like this instant memorization ability to just see things and have, like, it's a high Q thing. Like, I think he can see things and he knows where people are at. So, like, he did that at Tennessee last year, and he played pretty good when he got a chance to play. Hasn't played a lot of football since he's been in. He's been out of the league, in and out, different teams. But he came in here, and they basically said, "You're our guy." And I think once he got the support of Gannon and the offensive staff, like, he felt like, okay, I can do this for as long as they let me do this, And so, or at least until Kyler returns or whatever. But I think he's just one of those guys that's like, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. Like, I played well at Tennessee. I played decent in spot duty at Pittsburgh, Tennessee here. Like, let me run with this. And sometimes you never know what a guy can do till they get a real opportunity. Not a quarter or finish a game, but a real opportunity. And so maybe they see something in the meeting rooms, the walkthroughs, like the way that he communicates. He's a very basically calm guy. He's not real emotional. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes, you need that. But, like, I think from just a standpoint of let's execute the play, I think he's good at that and knowing where to go and what to do. And that's not a bad place to start. That's better than saying we're just going to throw a guy out there to tank, and to hell with the season. Like, he plays pretty good in the first 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, he's Nostradamus as well. As smart as he is, he said, I'm going to make a jump from week 1 to week 2. He absolutely did that. And then we were talking today, Baldy, and he said, hey, next thing we need to figure out is how to finish some games. You kind of gave us an idea of what finishing looks like for them. But just looking at Dobbs' complete tape, what do you think? I mean, we saw some throws I don't think we knew Dobbs had in his arsenal on Sunday. We saw the versatility. What do you think mainly about that big touchdown run? I thought that was fantastic, where he drops back the pass, he sees the open field, and then he lowers his shoulder to get into the end zone. I mean, Dobbs, mobility, smarts, what can he show in week 3, the first time he's going to make 3 consecutive starts in his career?
Well, I didn't know he had that in him. I didn't know he had that type of athletic ability, and then to finish that run 23 yards in the end zone like that. I didn't know he could do that. So, but you don't know anything until a guy starts playing and you start looking at him. The Cowboys will account for him right now. Somebody is going to account for him on 3rd downs. And when they're in man coverage and guys are turning their backs and running with Hollywood and Zach and some of the guys, Rondale, whatever. Like they got to have somebody account for him now. So that might change what Dan Quinn does a little bit. They've got tremendous team speed in Dallas. Windows open, but they close very quickly. The Jets found that out. The big thing I think this week is not to let what happened in that Jets game against Dallas or that Giants game against Dallas, where things can snowball very quickly. Like you can't turn the ball, you can't turn it over. And everybody says that you can't turn it over. Well, you got to be aggressive though. You know, like honestly, Jalen Thompson's interception goes right through the hands of Saquon Barkley. Like you don't expect that, but those things can happen both sides. It can happen both ways. But you know, Jalen got the pick, and you know it was a big part of that first half. But you know, they can't afford to do those kind of things. And when they get to Dak, because I think they're going to get there, they got to get them to the ground. They can't let this ball come out late, Jake Ferguson or to CD. Like they got to get them down on the ground.
This season, while they are attempting to win games, you know, they're projected for just over 4.5 this season, Baldy, is I think more so about evaluation of talent that was here during the Cliff Kingsbury, Steve Keim era, evaluation of these prospects they drafted back in April. Is there a young player on this team, either side of the ball, that has impressed you, jumped off the tape each of these first 2 weeks, whether it's Paris Johnson Jr. at right tackle? I know you're a big Zaven Collins fan. He transitions from inside to an edge rusher, somebody that you have liked for this team. Because, I mean, frankly, we talk about it all the time. They are starved for star players. They don't have those quintessential household names anymore.
Parsons has been impressive at right tackle. He's been impressive. I mean, he's going to see Parsons out there now. You find out a lot about him. He's going to see Nick Bosa the following week. He's going to see Trey Hendrickson. He's going to see 3 elite guys. Now, the question is, if he gets beat, what's the mental part? Does he go in the tank? Does he erase it, come back, learn from the mistake, if that happens? But it's probably going to happen against some of these elite guys he's going to see out there. I want to kind of see that. But, you know, he actually, obviously, you know, he's very athletic and, you know, he's very smart. But I saw some things at Ohio State where some of the things that these guys he's going to see can give him a problem. Bosa has unusual power. Like, he hasn't seen that in college. He hasn't seen the first 2 weeks either. Like, maybe Montez Sweat at times. But, like, this is different type of power. And then nobody moves like Micah. So, it's great test as you begin the evaluation process. Let's watch them against these elite guys. And let's really make an evaluation of Paris. Because I think he's good. I mean, does he end up taking over for DJ at left? That might happen. I don't know. But that's something that you're always thinking about. He played left. He played guard. He played tackle in college. So he's lined up at left. But DJ's there. So he's at right now. But anyways, like, that's an evaluation. I think Gardeck is a good player. I just always have thought he was a good player. I'm interested. I'm watching Zaven on the outside. I see power. It's a completely different position. I see him moving around a little bit. It's a different position than what he's played. But he was a guy that didn't get off blocks good in the run game as an inside linebacker. He didn't use his hands well. He was always the biggest kid, level. He's just bigger and stronger than everybody. So he never had to use these hands to disengage and get off blocks. And he looked like he didn't know how to do it, to be honest with you. Yeah. And so let him run, let him go for the interception last week. That's good. Tip ball, get the interception. But, I think that, this has a chance to, I'd give him a shot out there and see what he does.
I mean, throughout training camp, throughout preseason, Zaven's out there on the sideline doing all the hand technique stuff. Because you can tell it's all kind of foreign to him as far as that hand fighting that you see from pass rushers. Last question for our guy, Brian Baldinger. Baldy is going to join us once a week here on PHNX Cardinals. We're pumped about that. Nick Rallis, 30-year-old defensive coordinator, this prodigy, and just looking at some of these formations that he's setting up or the calls that he's putting in there. There's some looks, Baldy. You saw it against Washington. You saw it against New York. No defensive lineman. There's no defensive lineman on the field. It's all, outside backers. It's all inside backers. Have you ever seen that before?
No, but I know Nick was a 26-year-old position coach. He just has a good mind for the game. And it didn't surprise me that Jonathan got him out of Philly and took him, because right now, honestly, the Eagles linebackers look completely lost. Like, they're lost, and it's going to be a problem. And I think losing Nick is a big part of that. Be honest with you. The guy can flat out coach. Now, calling a game is different than coaching a position group and all that, and everybody learns. But you got to be impressed by some of the free hitters that they've gotten to these quarterbacks. The way that they have tackled, I think, has been pretty good. Coverage is always something that everybody's dealing with because of what you got to do in this league and who you got to cover. That's always something that you're working on. Communication is huge. But I forgot that Nick is all of 30 years old now. You know? Like, he's actually a grown-up. Like, I knew him. I did a football camp with him with high school kids maybe like 4 years ago, and I got to know him. We stayed in touch, texted back and forth. And he was coming to Philly, you know, when Nick Sirianni came to be the linebacker coach. Yeah. And I was like, all right, let's see what a 26-year-old can do. And he was damn good.
Well, real quick, like I'm sure Philadelphia is not pleased. I mean, the tampering charges against Jonathan Gannon, Monty Ossenford, that happened. I wonder too, like, that's probably the next defensive coordinator in Philadelphia, Nick Rallis, if Gannon doesn't take him with him. I mean, or certainly he's in contention for that job.
Well, they went outside the organization to go get, you know, Sean Desai, who's a disciple of Vic Fangio and all this stuff. But Nick, I don't think there's any question that Nick would have been elevated to defensive coordinator if Gannon didn't take him with him and give him the title and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure, because they hired Brian Johnson, the quarterback coach, to be the offensive coordinator. I'm sure Nick wanted to keep as much familiarity with what helped them get to the Super Bowl, lead the league in sacks, all the stuff that they did last year. I'm sure that would have been the hire.
I've got a brand new favorite segment of the week. It's when Brian Baldinger, Baldy, joins us each and every week here on PHNX Cardinals. Make sure you're following along at Baldy NFL. Unbelievable insight that you're going to get on this podcast each and every week. Baldy, thank you so much for your time this week. We'll talk to you next week, hopefully after Cardinals beat the Cowboys in week 3.
Well, that would shock and awe the NFL. All right, that you know. And then, then you go to San Francisco and knock the 49ers off and just, get on a tear. Who knows?
Speak our language. We'll see you next week.
Okay, guys, you bet. I look forward to it. Thank you.